JJ, there are a lot of nights in the NBA where your one team is going against a team that's shorthanded, and there's just kind of that mental hurdle tonight. Like Minnesota lost at home, Golden State loses at home. Why do you think you were able to kind of stem away from that and stay locked in on a back-to-back like this?
I thought there were stretches that we played good defensively. We lost, our way at the end of the third, start of the fourth when they went on that run, but the way we were able to generate good offense, and I think it was 48 threes and 34 were uncontested. Just our guys' ability to connect, and Luka leading that with 14 assists, and probably could have had 18 or 19. But to have another game with 30-plus assists, I thought our offensive decision-making and consistency, where we had 4 really good offensive quarters was great.
And then with Luka kind of doing his thing, you also had Austin attacking sometimes on the weak side, sometimes as primary. What did you make of how kind of deadly he was with what he was?
Yeah, I think just the Luka and having Austin as the next passer a lot of times. So when there were 2 on the ball, or they were double, or were in a heavy shift from the nail, having AR there as the guy that can either shoot or create the blender with his thrust on his drives was really good. And then that group that was playing end of first, start of second with Dalton and Vando, just playing out of our horns, our movement stuff out of horns. We got some really good stuff out of that. AR, Dalton, Vando, all of them.
To shift ahead to the next 2, how much will you reference what happened on the road against those teams? Not even motivation, but you had different personnel as you prepare for the Wednesday game against Denver. Looking at that game you guys just had there.
Yeah, I think against Denver, you're going to reference it a lot, because there were things that we did really well that we think we can emulate again, and then there were some things that we didn't do well. And particularly with that game, our transition defense has to be better, and then we have to do a better job of protecting the paint against Milwaukee.
JJ, I don't think you'll play a lot of games necessarily where you'll shoot almost 53s and 70% will be.
I lost you there for a second. I'm going to play no games. I'm not going to play any games. I'm done.
Feels more like a Mike question than one for me. But the thing I'm wondering is are you guys unlocking stuff offensively in terms of that was always going to follow kind of the defensive part of it, but are you seeing that guys are getting more comfortable playing with Luka, finding the right spots, the cuts, the when to flare, and all of that stuff? And is this maybe a harbinger of the things you guys can be offensively?
Yes, and I think for us to fully unlock our team offense, we need to be whole. Again, going back to our group and their responsiveness to everything throughout the season, they generally have done an outstanding job. When we've challenged them on certain things, they've responded. I think Greg has done a really nice job with not a lot of court time over the last few weeks, and really breaking down on film what we want our spacing to look like versus blitzes in pick and roll versus doubles in the post versus doubles from the nail versus fires from the top. Like we've done some really good things against that, and then just if they're not going to double and they're not going to blitz, like our packaging around that has I think been good. And even in some of the games where we haven't necessarily had a great offensive rating, you can kind of attribute that to turnovers and missing shots. I mean, even just the last 2 games, our rim efficiency was really, really poor. I think we were like 10 for 23 at the half against Denver, and it wasn't great yesterday against Phoenix either. So I think it's all going to come together where, we're finishing, we're passing, we're taking care of the basketball, and we're making threes. But pleased with how we're able to generate good looks fairly consistently.
I think it was after the Brooklyn loss. You mentioned, either before or after, wanting to install more off-ball actions or taking them from ATOs and installing them just part of your regular offense. Seems like you guys had an emphasis on that these past couple games, especially doing it early. What does that do for your offense when you're able to get AR or even Luka coming off of screens, coming off a ball, and they initiate actions that way instead of do pick and rolls or just?
I think with AR, it's just like getting a body off of him where he can really not have to work as hard with the dribble to create an advantage and get downhill, and obviously he can make threes off screens too. With Luka, I think the off-ball stuff is really good because if we do a good job of forcing over and setting screens, he's catching the ball and he's already got the angle, and it's not trying to create an angle from a static position. So that's been good. And then the last thing, I think tonight was a great example. When you're running some off-ball stuff as plays, then you can layer in different options out of ATOs, and our guys executed some good stuff tonight.
Thanks, Coach.